Hello everyone, this is Keith from the Solo Gamers Club and welcome to the channel. Tonight we're going to be taking a trip back down memory lane as we investigate the board game Talisman. This is the third edition. Now I also own the second edition of Talisman. Both games were produced by Games Workshop back in the day. Talisman I picked up in 1985. And it's an entry-level adventure game. Doesn't have a lot of deep strategy, but it does give you a very excellent thematic experience. Now in that second edition, I also picked up the available expansions at the time. We have the Talisman Dungeon, the infamous Talisman Timescape expansion, Talisman the Adventure, and Talisman City expansions. Like I said, I purchased this back in 1985 from my favorite game store at the time, which was Napoleon's in Shorewood, Wisconsin. Then about 10 years later, I picked up Talisman 3rd Edition. And if I'm being honest, I probably prefer the artwork from the 2nd edition. But the 3rd edition went a great distance in correcting some of the problems that were inherent in the original 2nd edition. Namely, they've addressed spellcasting. You have to have a certain craft level in order to cast spells. And they've just done a general cleanup on the rule set. There were some problems with the 2nd edition about characters being overpowered eventually and things, but they've sort of corrected that in this 3rd edition. Now for this 3rd edition, I purchased 2 of the available 3 expansions at the time. We have the City of Adventure and the Dungeons of Doom. Each of those came with 2 realms. You had the City realm along with the Forest realm, and then you had the Dungeon realm along with the Mountain realm. There was a 3rd expansion. I believe it was called the Dragon expansion, and that dealt with the center portion of the board. You had if I remember correctly, there was a large tower that fit into this central space and it was quite tall. I ended up not purchasing that at the time. The premise of this game is you are an adventurer and you're attempting to obtain the Crown of Command from the Wizard's Tower. In order to obtain the Crown of Command, we need to get a talisman, a magic talisman that is going to allow us to traverse from the causeway into the Wizard's Tower. Now the game has there's 3 tracks on this board. You have an outer track, which is where most of the action in the game is going to take place. It's the easier portion of the 3 tracks. Then you have a middle track, which gets to be a little bit more difficult, and basically you're using that track in an attempt to eventually get to the Wizard's Tower. Once you get to the Wizard's Tower, that is where the end game situation will be resolved, and you're attempting to defeat that wizard and gain the Crown of Command. Now with the expansions, we've got some corner locations. They're called realms. In the northwest corner, we have the City realm. In the northeast, we have the Dungeon realm. In the southeast, we have the Forest realm. And finally, in the southwest, we have the Mountain realm. Each of the realms that are around the edges of the board can be entered by landing on spaces on the outer track of the main game board. To enter the city, we have to get to the city gates. To enter the dungeon, we have to get to the ruins. To enter the forest board, we have to get to the forest. And finally, to get to the mountain realm, we have to enter the crags. Now this game is very simple on its exterior. There are not a lot of rules, and it plays very simply, but it does give you a very thematic experience during the playthrough. On a scale of, say, 1 to 10, this game would probably be a difficulty of either 2 or 3. It's very, very basic. The game doesn't require a lot of setup, but it does require a lot of card shuffling. You'll notice that we have an adventure deck, spell deck, purchase deck, talisman deck, special deck, tower deck, toad cards in case you're turned into a toad. Then we have city decks, dungeon decks, forest decks, and mountain decks. And each one has a different flavor to them. The majority of the cards that we'll be using will be from the adventure deck. That's why that's the largest. Now to begin the game, we are going to randomly select a character from, I think there's 21 or 22 with the expansions that I have. Now one thing that drew me to the 3rd edition, like I said, I probably prefer the artwork from the 2nd edition, but the 3rd edition came with models, and I was able to, at the time, eventually use those models in my advanced Hero Quest campaigns that I was playing back in the day, so they kind of served a dual purpose. And I've noticed that as I get older, I am finding myself more drawn to nostalgia from the old days, and that's kind of what prompted me to bring Talisman 3rd edition to the channel. And speaking of nostalgia, this is a good opportunity for me to talk about something that I've kind of wanted to talk about on the channel for some time. I just never really found the opportunity. And that has to do with kind of how the gaming industry has changed over the years. And in some cases, and at least in my opinion, it's not always for the better. Back in the 70s and 80s and at least early 90s, there was no internet, and you had no way to really find out what games were coming down the pipeline. I mean, unless you had, say, a Sears catalog or JCPenney catalog, or if you were on a mailing list for one of the game companies, they'd send you a catalog. But other than that, there was no way to find out, what was coming down the pipeline. You had to go to a game store and browse through and see what they had. And that's something that I really miss in the modern era of gaming. The old days, I'd head down to Napoleon's or Hackensack's at Capitol Court, or All-in-One Hobby at Southgate Mall, and you never knew what you were going to find. Now in today's day and age with GameFound and Amazon, you kind of know what's all out there way ahead of time, in some cases years ahead before the game is even developed. And it's really a loss, I think. Anybody my age or older, in 60 or above, would recognize this. Anybody younger than that, though, they never experienced any of this, and it's really a loss because there's so much fun and excitement and anticipation of what is going to be available this time I go to the game store, and that's kind of all gone now. I can understand the advantages of GameFound and Kickstarter and Amazon and stuff like that, but nothing comes without a cost, and that's something that I really kind of, in my nostalgia periods, miss, and it's something that's never going to come back, unfortunately. And probably worst of all is younger viewers to my channel will never experience that excitement or anticipation like the older viewers and I would have experienced, and it's kind of a loss. And this is our stack of characters, and I've shuffled that stack of cards. We're going to give it a cut, and we're going to play whatever character turns up at that cut location. So here we go. And we have chosen the Fire Wizard. Let's take a closer look at him. This is our character display. It lists at the top the name of the character, his special abilities, his starting strength, craft, lives, and experience, and starting gold and starting alignment. It also tells you where he begins the game. In this case, we're going to start at the village. This is the model for the Fire Wizard. Now, unfortunately, I never got to painting all of these. I did end up painting some of the characters at the time, but that was 30 years ago. and so I ended up painting some of these, but never finished them completely. Now we'll take a look at the Fire Wizard's special abilities. It says you start the game with a Fireball spell. Take this card from the spell deck at the start of the game. When you cast a Fireball spell, you do not have to discard it. You may keep the card and you can use it again, but not in the same turn. All right. And this is our Fireball spell. It says you may cast this spell when you are about to engage in battle. For that one battle, you may add 3 points to your strength. All right. In the game, each character is rated in strength, craft, lives, and they can gain experience. Strength would be considered your physical strength that you would use to resolve a battle. Craft is a skill that can be used in casting spells. Your craft level directly relates to the number of spell cards that you can carry, and it can also be used in resolving psychic combat. Lives are just that. It's the number of lives that you have. If your lives get to 0, you're dead. Experience is gained by defeating enemies, and for every 7 experience points, you can trade those experience points in for a gold, in addition to strength, craft, or an extra life. Now, the maximum number of objects that you can have at one time is limited to 4. There's no limit to the number of followers or gold that you can possess. Now, our strength, craft, lives, and experience are going to be tracked using these cones. Cones come in 2 sizes. You have a larger cone, which stands for 5, and then these smaller cones, which stand for 1. In this case, our starting strength is 2, so we will have 2 red cones. Our starting craft is at 4, so we're going to gain 4 of those tokens. And these can be stacked to kind of save space. It's kind of a nice way to keep track of things. We'll also start out with 4 lives. So we'll mark ourselves with 4 lives, and then we're also going to start out with 1 gold. And the game comes with these gold coins, and on the reverse side, they have the denomination, either a 1, 3, or 5. Now we begin the game with an alignment of neutral, meaning that we're neither good nor evil. Our starting space is going to be the village, so we will place our character at the village. So our character begins in the southeasterly quadrant of the main game board at the village. Now the mechanics of this game are very simple. During a turn, we're going to have to roll a d6, and we'll have to move that number of spaces along the board. We get to decide whether we're going to move left or right. But we have to move the indicated number of spaces unless we have some type of card effect that allows us to move directly to another space. Once we land in a space, we resolve whatever it says. As an example, if we landed in this plains area, it says draw 1 adventure card. Now, adventure cards can remain on the board. If, for an example, there was a face-up card in the plains and we landed there, we don't draw the adventure card. We would resolve the card that is already active on the space. So ultimately, what we're trying to do, we have to obtain a talisman that is going to give us access from the causeway into the wizard's tower, where we're going to attempt to claim that crown of command and win the game. But before we can do that, we need to build our character up, both his strength, craft, and lives, by moving around the board and collecting objects and followers. Now, before we get started, I'm going to explain the movement procedure a little bit further. If you're beginning a turn on the main game board, you're going to be rolling a standard d6 for movement, and then you're going to decide on a direction. You have to move the full amount. If you're starting the turn in a realm, then you're going to be rolling the realm die for movement. The realm die is different from a normal six-sided dice in that it bears the numbers 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, and 4 instead of the normal 1 through 6 pips. This means that we're going to be moving more slowly in the realms, which is as it should be because each realm is in its own way more difficult to move through than the normal board. Now on the 3 of the 4 realms, we move basically through a track, and I'll give you an example using the mountain realm. This is the mountain realm, and we enter this through the crags. So if we were to say be in the woods and we rolled a 5, we could move 1, 2 into the crags, and then 3 into the foothills, and then our movement would stop there. It's one of the few times that you don't have to roll your full amount, or move your full amount, I should say. And then once we're on the mountain board, we would be using the realm die to resolve our movement, and we're going to move along the track until we would eventually get to the, in this case, the lair of the Eagle King. Now the city board is the only one that is different. That one is not a track per se. You have pretty much freedom of movement on that board. We enter the city board from the city gates, and we would enter in through the Street of Temples. That would be our first space. So if we entered the city, we would stop at the Street of Temples, and it says draw 1 city card. We would resolve a city card in that location, and then for future movements we'd be using the realm die, and we can use that die to move within the city. You'll notice that within the city there are these red lines. You can't move from space to space between a red line. It's got to be using the city streets. Now there's a couple exceptions on the board. One of them is the wharf. At the wharf, you can reverse your direction. Normally in the game, you cannot reverse your direction once a direction has been picked. But we'll say that we were in the north side and we rolled a 4. You could move 1, 2, reverse your direction, 3, 4, and return back to the north side. Another space that allows you to reverse your direction is in the Guild Street. If we move into there, we can reverse our direction and then move on to another space. Now, if you enter one of the buildings in the city, your movement stops. So as an example, if we were in the Street of Temples and we rolled a 4, we could move 1, 2 into the palace, and our turn would end there. It's one of the few times in the game that you don't have to use your full amount of movement. So we're going to begin our turn. We're starting at the village. Now we have only 2 strength, so we're not going to be very good for right now at normal battles. We're much better off using our craft and trying to resolve psychic battles. But we will start out with a die roll and we'll see what kind of movement we get. Okay, the result is a 1. So our choices now are either to enter into the fields or enter into the fields. So that is the choice that we've got. Either one says draw 1 adventure card. So that's what we'll be doing in that space. And I think I'm going to head to the west. So we will move into the fields, and then we resolve what it says on the space. In this case, draw an adventure card. There are no cards currently on the space, so we will be drawing an adventure card. And in this case, we draw the card Shield. It's an object. It says if you lose a life in a battle, roll a die. On a 5 or 6, the shield protects you and you do not lose a life. If you roll a 2, 3, or 4, you lose a life as normal. If you roll a 1, the shield breaks and you must discard it and lose a life. Now, we can keep that card. It's an object and it says keep on it. So we will add that to our objects area on our display. We're able to keep a total of 4 objects. We can have an unlimited amount of followers. So we've updated our display, adding the shields into the objects area. Now what I'm going to try to do is to build myself up a little bit by gaining some objects, and possibly from encounters we can eventually gain experience, and we can eventually use that to build up some of our either strength, craft, or lives. Now we can cross into the middle region by using the toll bridge. It says you may cross to and from the middle region at a cost of 1 gold. So if we say rolled a 6, we could move 1, 2, 3, 4, crossing the bridge, paying $1, or 1 gold rather, and then completing our movement 5, 6. That would be a legal move. However, we don't want to enter that middle region until we've built ourselves up a bit. So we're going to continue on with another turn, and we'll start with a d6 roll for movement. Okay, we've rolled another 1. So our choices would be to go to the village or go to the plains. At the village, it says you can visit the healer or the mystic. The healer will heal lives at a price of 1 gold each. If you visit the mystic, roll a die. On a 1 to 3, you're ignored. On a 4, you may change your alignment if you want. On a 5, we'd gain a craft. And on a 6, we would gain a spell. Now, one of the improvements that was made in this 3rd edition is regarding craft. You'll notice that in the rules here, it says that your total craft directly tells you the number of spells that you can possess at any single time. Now, we currently have a craft of 4, so we'd be entitled to 2 spells that we can have. Our fireball spell is going to be with us the rest of the way out. It says you start the game with a fireball spell, and then when you cast it, you do not have to discard it. You can keep it and use it again. So that is how the spells will work. Spells are very powerful in the game, and this table here is an improvement over the 2nd edition, which kind of limits the number of spells you can have based on your craft, which is how I think it should be. So we can go to the village, or we can move to the plains and draw an adventure card. And I think we'll go to the village, and we're going to encounter the mystic. And it says we're going to roll a die, and depending upon the result, we'll find out what we get. Here's the roll. Result is a 6, and that says gain 1 spell. All right. Well, since our craft is 2, we can hold up to 2 spells. So we'll draw a spell from the spell deck. And this time we've gotten random. It says you can cast this spell on any other player at any time during your turn, or on another player who tries to attack you. The player rolls a die. On a 1, we would become a toad for 3 turns. On a 2, we'll lose a strength. On a 3, we would lose a craft. On a 4, we'd lose all our gold. On a 5, we'd gain strength. And on a 6, we would gain a life. So it's not a great spell, but we have to take it. And the only way to get rid of spells is to cast them. All right, so that's going to bring our turn to a close, and we'll start another round. So we'll roll a d6 and see what we've got for movement. Result is a 3, so we've got 3 movement points. We can travel to the woods, draw an adventure card, or to the plains, draw an adventure card. I think we'll move to the woods. So we'll move 1, 2, 3 to the woods. So we'll resolve our encounter at the woods by drawing an adventure card. And this time we've got, a daemon. Craft of 10. Oh no. All right, attacks are split into 2 types, battles and psychic combats. A battle occurs when you are attacked by a creature whose strength is given. A psychic combat occurs when you are attacked by a creature whose craft is given. If you decide to attack another player, then you can choose whether you're going to fight a battle or a psychic combat. In this case, it's going to be a psychic combat. The demon has a craft of 10. Now, how battles are resolved are very simple. You take the skill of what you're using, roll a d6, add the two together, and then we're going to compare that with what we roll and our craft level. Now obviously this demon is craft of 10. He's going to have a minimum of 11. Our craft is currently only a 4. Most we can get is a 10, so we're going to lose this battle. Now if we could score higher than the monster would be killed. If the monster's score is higher, our character loses a life and our turn ends. If the scores are drawn, neither side is harmed and your turn would end. And that card would remain, and it will remain, in the woods until that creature is defeated. So in this case, we are defeated and we have to lose a life. So we lose 1 life. We're down to 3 now. So we'll continue on with the game and we'll make a roll for movement. Result is a 1. Okay, so we can travel either to the hills, drawing an adventure card, or to the plains. I think we'll move to the hills and we will draw an adventure card at that location. Now once again, that demon in the woods, we didn't defeat it, so it's going to remain on the board in that location. If we happen to land there, we're going to have to battle him once again. But in this case, we're at the hills and we'll draw another adventure card. This time we've got Holy Grail. It's an object. Only good players can take the Holy Grail. Neutral and evil players must leave it in the space where they can encounter it. If the Grail is returned to the chapel, it can be discarded for either 2 craft or 2 strength. So that's a pretty good thing. Now, unfortunately, we are of a neutral alignment. We can't take it. So that card will remain there, and we might want to think about possibly changing our alignment to good in order to acquire that card. Now, we can't directly change our alignment, but there are game mechanisms that allow us to do so. So we're going to continue on, and we'll make a d6 roll. Let's see what we've got for movement. Roll is a 6. Okay, so our choices would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the woods, draw an adventure card, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the forest. If we go to the forest, it says roll a dice. 1, we're attacked by a bandit with a strength of 4. 2 to 3, we would be lost for a turn. 4 to 5, we would be safe. And a 6, a ranger leads us out, gain 1 craft. All right. Well, I think we will proceed to the left and we'll move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to the woods. So we'll resolve our encounter at the woods, and that says to draw 1 adventure card. This time we've got an angel. All right, that says you are visited by an angel. If you are of a good alignment, you gain 1 life. If you are evil, you lose 1 life. If you are neutral, you become good. Well, right there, that is exactly what we're looking for. So we're going to be gaining a good alignment token, and we're going to add that to our display. So we will add a good alignment to cover up our neutral alignment, and that is our alignment for the time being. And then we follow what says on the card. In this case, it says discard. So that card will be placed in the discard. All right. So we'll continue on with our turn, and we'll get a die roll for movement. Result is a 5. So we've got 5 movement points. And let's calculate where we're able to move to. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we could move to the hills. That would get us within range of possibly gaining that Holy Grail. We could move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the graveyard. And unfortunately, the graveyard is not a good place for good alignment. So we don't want to do that. Another option would be for us to enter the city. We could move 1, 2, and then enter the city at the Street of Temples. That would end our turn there, and then we would perform, the action is draw 1 city card. So that is an option for us. But I think in this case we're going to move the 5 spaces back towards the Holy Grail. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll move into the hills, and that says draw 1 adventure card. So we draw an adventure card, and this time we've got gold coins. Discard this card and take 1 gold counter. That is excellent. So we're going to gain 1 gold. And we will gain a 1-point gold token that we're going to place in our gold area. That gives us 2 gold now. The card will be discarded. We add 1 gold to our display. So we've added an extra gold to our display. We've got 2 gold now, and that makes it a little bit more reasonable to maybe try to go to the city, because there's certain things that we can purchase at the city. You'll see from this table, and it's under the title Purchase Cards, City of Adventure includes new purchase cards. Add these cards to the purchase deck at the start of the game. A number of spaces and cards allow you to purchase items from the purchase card deck. In order to purchase an item, simply pay the amount of gold listed below or shown on the space, and take the card from the deck. If there are no cards of the appropriate type in the deck, then you may not purchase that item. So you'll see a list of things that we can get: water bottle, broadsword, battle axe, quiver of arrows, helmet, mule, etc. And each of those does a certain specific, gives us a certain specific benefit. Now, once again, we are limited to a total of 4 objects at a time. If we ever acquire more than 4 objects, we have to leave those objects behind in the space that we have landed on. And we'll continue on with a movement roll. Okay, the result is a 6. So let's see what we can do with 6 movement points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's the fields. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's the field. So either way, we'll be landing in a field space. I think we'll take the one closest to the city. We might end up going there. So we'll move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then encountering the space, it says to draw 1 adventure card. So during our encounter, we'll draw an adventure card. This time we've got an imp. Okay, it says you meet a grumpy imp who zaps you with a teleport spell. To make you go away, roll a dice and determine where he teleports you to. All right, so we're going to roll a d6 and see what the effects are. A grumpy imp. Okay, the result is a 6. And we'll read where he sends us to. On a roll of 6, it is the Cursed Glade. All right, well, that's where we're going. The imp card says we're supposed to discard it. Incidentally, there's numbers at the bottom, and I'll explain those. If you had multiple cards, like say there's spaces on here where it says draw 4 encounter cards, you'd have to arrange them from lowest to highest and play the lower cards, resolve those before resolving higher cards. So in this case, the imp is moving us to the Cursed Glade, and that is in the middle region. So the imp has relocated us to the Cursed Glade in the middle portion of the board. And it says here, draw 1 adventure card. While on this space, you may not cast any spells or use any object. Oh. And when we're relocated by a game event, we have to resolve that space just as though if we landed on it. So we have to draw an adventure card. And this time we've drawn, gold coins. Discard the card and take 1 gold counter. That is excellent. So we'll add an additional gold coin to our display. We've got 3 now. That's great. Now, incidentally, if we choose not to want to stay on the middle track, we can go back to the outside track, and that's simply by moving through this toll bridge. We don't have to pay the dollar when moving from the middle region to the outer region, only when we're moving into the middle region. So we could continue our movement through that toll bridge. Okay, here's the roll for movement. We've got a result of 1. Okay, so our choices would be the wilderness, draw 2 adventure cards, or the hills, draw 1 adventure card. And I think we will move to the hills. I don't want to stay on this middle region for too long. Some of these could be quite dangerous. You've got the Hidden Valley, draw 3 adventure cards as an example, or the Black Knight. You must either discard a gold or lose a life. So we don't want to stay there for too long. So we'll draw our adventure card, and this time we've got a helmet. It's an object. If you lose a life in a battle, roll a dice. If you roll a 6, the helmet protects you and you do not lose the life. If you roll a 2, 3, 4, or 5, you lose a life as normal. If you roll a 1, the helmet breaks and you must discard it and lose a life. Well, we'll take it. We've got space in our inventory, and right now we've got a shield and a helmet that'll help to protect us when we lose a battle. Now, theoretically, when we battled this demon and we lost that, we could have used our shield that we had. I chose not to use it, but we could have. And could have rolled a die, and on a 5 or 6, that would have prevented the wound. I probably should have used it, but we didn't. Okay, that ends our turn, and we will continue on with another round. Now, I should point out that there are reasons to go into the 4 realms that are scattered around the board. Each realm is, the deck is thematically linked to that realm, and each one has an ultimate condition. Maybe not the city board, but the other 3 have an ultimate condition that can happen. And some boards you might be able to acquire a talisman if you're able to defeat that big bad in that area, or sometimes they offer different benefits. As an example, we have the mountain board. On the mountain board, the ultimate big bad here is the lair of the Eagle King. If we're able to reach that space, then we would resolve a combat against the Eagle King. And that says, you must stop here and fight the Eagle King, strength of 6. If you win the battle, you manage to subdue the Eagle King rather than kill him. In your next turn, he will take you to any space in any region, including the Wizard's Tower. If you lose or draw, he immediately picks you up and drops you in the chasm space on the main board. So it just shows that each of these boards has a certain specific benefit if you're able to complete that realm. The other board is the forest board, and the ultimate big bad there is the Wraith Lord's lair. You must stop here and fight a psychic combat against the Wraith Lord, who has a craft of 6. If you defeat him, you may take a talisman and 2 gold. Win, lose, or draw on your next turn, you exit the forest on the wood space in the inner region. If you defeat the Wraith Lord, then the next player to land here will find that a new Wraith Lord has taken his place. Then we have the dungeon board, and the ultimate location for that realm is the treasure chamber. And that says, you must stop here and fight the Lord of Darkness, strength of 6. If you win, you may take a talisman and 2 gold. Win or lose, in your next turn, you exit the dungeon on the causeway space and may move normally from there. If you kill the Lord of Darkness, then the next player to land here will find that a new Lord of Darkness has taken his place. Okay. And finally, on the city board, there's no necessarily a big bad there, but there are spaces within the city that you can obtain titles. An example of which is at the palace. You may apply for the post of sheriff. Roll a dice and add your strength. On a 1 to 5, you're beaten up for wasting time. Lose a life. On a 6 to 9, you're rejected. On a 10 or more, you're appointed sheriff, and you would take the sheriff card from the specials deck, and that gives you specific benefits. Another title that's available is the High Mage at the Wizards Guild. You may apply to become the High Mage. Roll a dice and add your craft. 1 to 5, you're turned into a toad for 3 turns for wasting time. 6 to 9, you're rejected, but on a 10 or more, you're appointed High Mage. Take the High Mage card. And so that's how those realm locations work. You can kind of gives you some agency in determining whether you want to attack something with strength or with craft, and does give you a specific benefit. Okay, we're going to continue on, and we'll make a roll for movement. We're in the hills right now in the middle board. We've rolled a 5. Okay, I don't know if we want to stay here for too long, but we'll check out the possibilities. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is the Warlock's Cave. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's the Wilderness. We would draw 2 adventure cards there. Or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The Craigs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or Back to the Village. So as you can see, there's not a great deal of agency in the game. You're pretty much at the mercy of the draw deck of the adventure cards or city cards or mountain cards or whatever the case is. But you do have some agency in the fact that you kind of get to determine where you're going to move to based upon the roll and trying to optimize or minimize potential, losses of lives or encounters. Especially when these cards become face up on the board, you have a much better way to determine what the effects of that move will be. I think I'm going to go back to the village. So we're going to move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and our fire wizard has entered the village. In this case, at the village, it says you may visit the healer or the mystic. The healer will heal lives at the price of 1 gold each. So I think we're going to do that. We've lost a life in that encounter with the demon, and might be a good idea to repair that damage. So we're going to pay 1 gold, and we're going to get 1 life back on our display. So we'll take a life counter and bring us back up to 4. So we'll continue on with another round, and here's the die roll. Rolls a 6, so we've got 6 movement points. So that will allow us to move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to the chapel. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to the tavern. We also would be able to move through the forest into the forest realm. That's another option. I don't think we're quite ready for that yet. I think in this case we're going to move to the tavern. So we'll move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to the tavern. We'll read what that says. So at the tavern it says, roll a die. On a 1 we get blind drunk, miss a turn. 2 to 3 we gamble and lose a gold or a life. 4 to 5 we gamble and win a gold. And on a 6, the boatman offers to ferry us to the temple as our next move. All right. So we'll make a roll and see how we do at the tavern. Result is a 4. And that says you gamble and win 1 gold. Okay, so that's great. We're going to gain a gold then. So we will add a gold to our display, moving us back up to 3 gold. That's great. So we'll continue on with another round. Our die roll is a 4, so we've got 4 movement points. And let's see where we can go with that. 1, 2, 3, 4 would be the forest. 1, 2, 3, 4 would be the hills. We also could make a detour and move into the dungeon through the ruins or into the forest board through the forest. Those are other options. I think we'll go to the hills. So I'm going to move back towards the city gates, and we'll move 1, 2, 3, 4 into the hills. That says draw 1 adventure card. So we'll draw an adventure card and see what we get. This time we've got the Book of Spells. You have found the fabled Book of Spells. You immediately gain your full complement of spells according to your craft. Well, unfortunately, we're filled up, so that isn't going to give us any benefit. And we're supposed to discard that, so missed opportunity there. So we'll continue on with another round, and here's the movement roll. Result is a 3. Okay, we've got 3 movement points. I think we'll go to the city and we'll do a little adventuring in the city. So we're going to move 1, 2, and then we're going to enter the Street of Temples in the city. At the Street of Temples, it says we're supposed to draw a city card. So we'll examine a new deck here and we'll draw the top city card. This one is a giant fly. It has a strength of 2. And this is an attack, so we're going to have to resolve a combat here. So this will be a battle. We're going to be using our strength, and I think I'm going to cast a fireball. We'll use our fireball. It says you may cast this spell when you are about to engage in battle. For that battle, you may add 3 points to your strength. So our strength right now is a 5. Our normal 2 plus 3 is 5. And we'll get a die roll and see what our total attack is. All right. Okay, here is the roll. So we've got a 5 plus 3 is 8. Now the giant fly is going to make a roll. His strength currently is at 2. Here is his roll. He rolled a 2. So we've defeated him. We have a total of 8 to his 4. So the giant fly is removed. And we're going to gain the number of experience points based upon the strength of that creature that we defeated, in this case 2. So in this case we can add 2 experience tokens to our board. When we get 7 of those, we can trade them in for either a life, a craft, a strength, or a gold. Now we use this fireball spell. Normally, when you cast a spell, it is discarded, but we have a special ability. It says when you cast a fireball spell, you do not have to discard it. You can keep the card, and you can use it again, but not during the same turn. We'll keep it. Now, continuing on, we're going to do a little adventuring in the city, but now we're going to be using the realm die. And we roll this green die in place of a d6. And that'll tell us our movement ability. Okay, we've rolled a 2. So we've got 2 movement points to use in the city. So we've got 2 movement points, and I think we're going to visit the temple, the High Temple. Now, when you enter a building location, you can end your turn there. You don't have to use your full movement points like you would in most cases. So we've entered the High Temple. That says you may be blessed at a cost of 1 gold. Take a blessing. So let's do that. So we're going to pay 1 gold, and we're going to gain this card, Blessing, and that is from the Specials deck. That says the card allows you to re-roll any 1 dice roll. You must accept the result of the second roll. Discard the card after you have used it. All right, so we're going to keep that. That is a great, anytime we can get re-rolls, that is a great thing. Now, this doesn't use up any slots in our objects area. This is a blessing. It's different. So the 1 gold will go back into the supply, and that ends our turn. And we'll continue on with another turn, and we'll use our realm die to make a roll for movement. Okay, we've rolled a 4, so we've got 4 movement points, and I think we are going to head to the armory. So we're going to move 1, 2 into Guild Street and 3 into the armory. Now at the armory, we're able to purchase several different items at different costs. I kind of think we need an offensive weapon, so I think we'll purchase either a sword or an axe. And I've elected to purchase a broadsword. It's going to cost us 2 gold, and it says, while you have the broadsword, you may add 1 to your score in any battle in which you use it. However, if you roll a 1 on the dice in the battle, the sword breaks and you must discard it. So we'll do that. We're going to pay the 2 gold. We're out of gold right now, but we do have at least an offensive weapon now. And so we'll continue on with our adventure in the city. We've rolled a 1, so the only choice we have is to move to Guild Street. It's our only choice. All right, at Guild Street, it says you can reverse direction. If we had more movement points, we'd be able to go back, say, into the armory or whatever the case is. But it does say to draw a city card. So we'll draw a city card. The card is revealed to be Horse Thief. All mules, horses, and horse and carts belonging to the players in the city are stolen and must be discarded. Well, fortunately we don't have any transport, so that's good. Otherwise we would have lost those, and that says it all players. So if we had a multiplayer game going on, all the players would have their horses stolen. Not good. Okay, we'll continue on with another move. We've rolled a 1. We'll move to the Street of Temples, and that says draw 1 city card. Okay, that card is revealed to be a card game. You may gamble if you have 1 or more gold counters. If you do, roll a die, and then that would be the different results. Well, we don't have any gold, so that card will be discarded, and we'll end our turn. We'll continue on. And I'm going to probably head back out to the main board. We rolled a 1, and that's just enough to enter the city gates. That city gates space allows us to purchase some items there, probably from merchants that are displaying their wares out in front of the city gates, but we don't have any money, so we won't be purchasing anything at this time. Now we're going to continue moving, but we're going to go back now. We're on the main board, so we'll be rolling a d6 instead. Result is a 2. And I think we're going to head south to the woods, and that says to draw an adventure card. So let's do that. And our adventure card is a market. Okay, you come across a bargain. Shuffle the purchase card deck and take 1 card at random. You may, if you wish, purchase the card at half its normal cost, rounding fractions up. We're supposed to leave this card in the location, so that's a permanent card that is going to be on the board. We don't have any money, so we won't be able to take advantage of it, but in the future we might be able to. And so that is an example of how to play the game Talisman, and this is the 3rd edition. Right now there is a 5th edition. I don't know what company is producing that. I believe the 4th edition was produced at one time by Fantasy Flight Games. The 5th edition, I'm not sure who produces that, but I'm sure the game plays very similar to what we're seeing here. I'm sure they've made improvements to the artwork and cards and things like that. But essentially, if you would like to purchase Talisman, there is a 5th edition. It does come in some different varieties as well. I know that I saw online there was a Harry Potter Talisman edition, which looked actually pretty good. And I was actually at one point almost going to pull the trigger on that, but I'm probably past my Talisman days. I played this game when I first purchased it. That's 40 years ago. So it's nice to go back down memory lane occasionally, but I don't know if this is something that I would want to play readily, I would say. It's interesting, but there's just not enough decision making involved in the game. It's fun, and I'm sure it would be more fun if you had multiple players playing, where you can bring your opponents to combat and things like that. But as a solo game, it's probably a 5, something on that order. It is what it is. So, well, anyway, thank you for joining me at the Solo Gamers Club, and I hope you enjoyed this look back at Talisman 3rd edition. I look forward to seeing you at the channel in our next video. And in the meantime, this is Keith from the Solo Gamers Club, signing off and wishing everyone a pleasant evening. Good night.